1. We've got a real blast from the past, a 1974 Mercury Comet, and let me tell you, this beauty is a sight to behold. The seller's asking $10,500 for this classic ride, and from what they've shared, it seems like it's in excellent condition. Can you believe it? A car that's nearly 50 years old, and it's still looking sharp. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine, ready to roar to life. This Comet is a rear-wheel drive machine, so you know it's got that classic feel when you're behind the wheel. The seller mentions it's got a clean title and an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive. And check out that odometer, only 33,000 miles. That's practically nothing for a car of this age. Now, let's talk about the looks. This 1974 Mercury Comet is rocking a sweet brown paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. It's a sedan, so there's plenty of room for you and your friends or family to cruise around in style. And get this, it even has air conditioning. That's a rare find on a classic car like this. The seller mentions that this Comet came from Santa Fe, so you know it's had that dry desert air to keep it in top shape. And with a 302 automatic engine, you've got plenty of power to work with. Now I know what you might be thinking. But wait, is this car really in excellent condition like the seller says? Well, based on the information provided, it seems like this 1974 Mercury Comet is indeed a well-maintained, low-mileage classic. However, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to see the vehicle in person, give it a thorough inspection, and maybe even have a mechanic take a look before you make a final decision. All in all, if you're looking for a vintage ride with plenty of character and style, this 1974 Mercury Comet might just be the one for you. It's got a clean title, low miles, and a whole lot of charm. Plus, with delivery available, getting your hands on this beauty could be easier than you think. So, what do you say, car enthusiasts? Is this Comet calling your name? 2. We've got a real treat for you. A 1973 Pontiac Grand Prix that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing. This classic beauty is up for grabs at just $7,000. And let me tell you, it's got a whole lot of history and character packed into that price tag. First off, let's talk about the mileage. The odometer reads 138,000 miles, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But here's the thing. The motor was rebuilt around 40,000 miles ago by the previous owner, and they even added a mild cam to give it a little extra oomph. So, you can rest assured that this 400 cubic inch, 4-barrel carbureted engine has plenty of life left in it. Now, let's talk about the transmission. This Grand Prix is rocking an automatic, so you can sit back, relax, and let the car do the work for you. And with newer components like the radiator, power steering, brakes, and battery, you know this car has been well taken care of over the years. The seller mentions that the car was painted years ago, and while it might not be a fresh coat, it still looks pretty darn good. The interior is where this Grand Prix really shines, though. The headliner is in great shape, the dash is looking fine, and the seats are good to go. Sure, the trunk pan and weather stripping could use a little TLC, but that's just part of the charm of owning a classic car. Now I know what you might be thinking. Is this car really as good as it sounds? Well, the seller seems pretty confident, stating that they'd drive this beauty across the country tomorrow if they had to. And with a clean title and a history of being well maintained, there's no reason to doubt them. So what do you say, car enthusiasts? Are you ready to take this 1973 Pontiac Grand Prix home and make it your own? With a price tag of just $7,000, it's a steal for a piece of American automotive history. And hey, if you've got an SUV lying around that you're looking to trade, the seller might just be interested in making a deal. 3. We've got a real gem for you, a 1983 Cadillac Eldorado that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. This classic beauty is up for grabs at just $8,000, and let me tell you, it's a deal you won't want to miss. First off, let's talk about the exterior. This Eldorado is rocking a stunning white paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And when you pair that with a vibrant blue leather interior, oh man, it's a match made in heaven. The contrast between the two colors is just so striking and unique, you won't find another car quite like this one. Now let's pop the hood and see what's powering this beast. Under there, you'll find a robust 4100 V8 engine that's paired with a smooth 4-speed overdrive automatic transmission. And let me tell you, this combination is a dream. You'll be cruising down the highway in style and comfort, with plenty of power at your fingertips. But the features don't stop there. This Eldorado is loaded with all kinds of goodies designed to make your driving experience as enjoyable as possible. You've got air conditioning to keep you cool on those hot summer days, an AM/FM radio to provide the perfect soundtrack for your adventures, and power everything. Brakes, locks, seats, steering, windows, you name it. And with those classic white wall radial tires, you'll be riding in style and comfort no matter where you go. Inside the car, the luxury continues. The leather interior is just so inviting and comfortable, and with the telescopic and tilt steering wheel, you can adjust your driving position to exactly what feels right for you. It's like sitting in a cozy armchair, but with the added bonus of being able to hit the open road whenever you want. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What's the catch? There's got to be something wrong with this car. But honestly, from what the seller has shared, it seems like this Eldorado is in great shape. The odometer reads just 24,523 miles, which is practically nothing for a car of this age. And with a clean title and no major issues mentioned, it seems like this car has been well taken care of over the years. 4. We've got a real treat for you. A 1963 Ford Falcon that's just begging to be brought back to its former glory. This classic beauty is up for grabs at just $8,500. And let me tell you, it's a project that's sure to get your heart racing. First off, let's talk about the history of this Falcon. The seller has owned it since 2015, and when they first got their hands on it, it was a daily driver with an inline 6-cylinder engine. But in 2019, they decided to take things to the next level and started an engine swap that's sure to make any car lover drool. Under the hood, you'll now find a fully rebuilt 289 engine straight out of a 1966 Mustang. And let me tell you, this engine is no joke. It's got rebuilt heads, roller rocker lifters, a comp cam, an HEI distributor, a 4-barrel Holly Street Avenger carburetor, and so much more. When you start this baby up, it idles like a dream and sounds absolutely amazing thanks to those Hedman headers. Now I know what you might be thinking. But wait, the seller says the car isn't currently drivable. What's up with that? Well, here's the deal. The engine swap is mostly complete, but there are still a few parts that need to be wired up or installed to get this Falcon back on the road. But don't let that discourage you. The seller is including a ton of extra parts to help you finish the job, including a new wiring harness, an extra carburetor, and more. And let's talk about the transmission and rear end. This Falcon is rocking a 4-speed top-loader transmission with a custom universal tail shaft, and the seller even has the stock Mustang gear shift to go with it. The rear end is a narrowed 5-lug 8.8 Posey unit out of a 2000 Explorer, complete with disc brakes and leaf springs. And to top it all off, there's a heavy-duty driveline from a 1988 T-Bird that just needs to be adjusted for length and installed. But the upgrades don't stop there. This Falcon has a new heavy-duty radiator to keep that powerful engine cool, and the black and chrome theme under the hood is sure to turn heads at any car show. And with those alloy wheels and the bench seat that lets your girl sit right next to you while you cruise, this car is just begging to be shown off. 5. We've got a real classic on our hands. A 1964 Chevy Impala that's just begging for a new owner to give it some love. This 2-door beauty is up for grabs at $15,000, and while it might need some work, it's got a ton of potential that any true car lover will appreciate. First off, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Impala is packing a V8 engine that's mated to a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission, and let me tell you, there's nothing quite like the feeling of rowing through the gears in a classic muscle car like this. When you fire up that V8, you can feel the power coursing through the car, just waiting to be unleashed on the open road. Now I know what you might be thinking. But what about the condition of the car? Well, I'll be honest with you, the seller does mention that the Impala needs some body and paint work. But here's the thing. That's all part of the fun of owning a classic car. You get to put your own personal touch on it and make it truly yours. And with a solid foundation like this Impala has, the possibilities are endless. But don't just take my word for it. The seller says that this Impala runs and drives, which is a huge plus. It means that you can enjoy the car right away while you work on getting the body and paint up to your standards. And with an odometer reading of just 20,000 miles, you know that this car has a lot of life left in it. Another big selling point for this Impala is the fact that it comes with a clean title. That means you won't have to worry about any hidden surprises or legal issues down the road. You can buy with confidence, knowing that you're getting a car that's ready to be enjoyed. Now let's talk about the price. I know that $15,000 might seem like a lot of money for a car that needs some work. But when you consider the fact that this is a genuine 1964 Chevy Impala with a V8 engine and a 4-speed manual transmission, it starts to look like a pretty good deal. These cars are only going to become more rare and more valuable as time goes on, so if you've always dreamed of owning a classic Impala, now might be your chance. 6. We've got a real gem for you, a 1971 Ford Maverick that's been cherished by the same family for 3 generations. This classic beauty is up for grabs at just $13,200, and let me tell you, it's a deal that's hard to beat. First off, let's talk about the history of this Maverick. The seller's family bought it brand new from the dealership back in 1971, and it's been passed down through the generations ever since. And now, it's time for this beloved car to help pay for college. Talk about a noble cause. Under the hood, you'll find a straight-six engine that's been keeping this Maverick running smoothly for over 50 years. And with just 101,400 miles on the odometer, you know that this car has been well maintained and cherished throughout its life. But here's the really cool part. This Maverick is practically untouched. Aside from an aftermarket stereo with an aux input, because let's face it, we all need our tunes, this car is a true time capsule. It's a rare opportunity to own a piece of automotive history that's been preserved in such great condition. And speaking of condition, the seller describes it as good, which is pretty impressive for a car that's been around for over half a century. Of course, as with any classic car, there may be some minor imperfections or signs of age, but that's all part of the charm. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what about the paperwork? Well, don't worry, because this Maverick comes with documents that help tell its story. You'll be able to trace its history and see just how much love and care has gone into keeping this car on the road for all these years. But enough about the technical stuff. Let's talk about the fun facts. Did you know that when the Maverick was first introduced, Ford gave the exterior paint colors some pretty wacky names? We're talking Anti-Establishment, Hullabaloo, Original Cinnamon, Freudian Gilt, and Thanks Vermilion, just to name a few. And apparently, these pun names were sent to Ford's Lee Iacocca by a friend, who also suggested some that didn't quite make the cut, like Good Clean Fawn, Down Umber, and Mickey Moss. Talk about a creative bunch. 7. We've got a real treat for you, a 1962 Chevrolet Corvair Monza 900 that's just begging for a new owner to take it on some wild adventures. This classic beauty is up for grabs at just $8,000 or best offer, and let me tell you, it's a deal that's hard to pass up. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Corvair. The seller describes it as good, which is pretty impressive for a car that's been around for over 60 years. It's got its original interior, which is a real testament to how well this car has been cared for throughout its life. And while the odometer reads 100,000 miles, you can tell that this Corvair has plenty of life left in it. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that's ready to take you on all sorts of adventures. And with a manual transmission and rear-wheel drive, you know that driving this Corvair is going to be an absolute blast. There's just something about shifting gears and feeling the road beneath you that makes driving a classic car like this so special. But here's where things get really interesting. This Corvair comes with a ton of extra goodies. We're talking 2 extra motors, extra transmissions, and 2 whole bins of extra parts. It's like having your own personal Corvair store in your garage. Whether you're looking to keep this car running smoothly for years to come, or you want to tackle some fun restoration projects, you'll have everything you need to get the job done. And can we talk about the color of this Corvair for a second? It's a classic white that just never goes out of style. It's the kind of color that looks great no matter where you take it. whether you're cruising down the highway or showing it off at a classic car show. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what about the title? Is it clean? Well, I've got good news for you. This Corvair comes with a clean title, which means you won't have to worry about any pesky legal issues or hidden surprises down the road. You can buy with confidence knowing that you're getting a car that's ready to be enjoyed. So, what do you say, car enthusiasts? Are you ready to make this 1962 Chevrolet Corvair Monza 900 a part of your collection? With its original interior, extra parts, and clean title, this car is a true gem. And at just $8,000 or best offer, it's a deal that's hard to beat. 8. We've got a real blast from the past, a 1965 Buick Skylark convertible that's just begging for a new owner to give it some love. This classic beauty is up for grabs at just $10,000, and while it might need some work, it's got a ton of potential that any true car lover will appreciate. First off, let's talk about the history of this Skylark. The seller's father was the second owner, and he's had it since the 60s. That's right, this car has been cherished by the same family for over half a century, and for the last 40 years or so, it's been kept safe and sound in a garage, just waiting for the right person to come along and give it a new lease on life. Under the hood, you'll find a 302 V8 engine that was fully rebuilt about 10 years ago. And get this, there's probably fewer than 100 miles on that rebuilt motor. Talk about a fresh start. The original 2-speed Powerglide transmission has been swapped out for a 3-speed Auto Turbo 350, which is a great upgrade for a car like this. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what about the condition of the car? Well, the seller describes it as fair, which means it's going to need some work. The body needs some minor repairs and a fresh coat of paint, and the ragtop definitely needs to be replaced. But here's the thing. These are all relatively easy fixes for someone who's handy with tools and has a passion for classic cars. And let's talk about the wheels for a second. This Skylark comes with 2 Grand Sport alloy wheels and 2 steel wheels with hubcaps. It's a cool mix of old and new that gives this car a unique look. Now, I know the seller mentions that the motor isn't turning over right now because it needs a battery. But don't let that discourage you. A new battery is a small price to pay for a car with this much potential. And here's the really cool part. The Buick Skylark is built on the same GM A-body platform as the Chevelle, GTO, and other classic muscle cars of the era. That means that there's a ton of aftermarket support and parts available for this car, so you can really make it your own. 9. We've got a real icon in the world of classic American muscle. A 1965 Ford Mustang that's just waiting for a new owner to give it the love and attention it deserves. This pony car is up for grabs at $13,500 cash, and while it might need a little bit of work, it's got all the makings of an absolute stunner. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Mustang. The seller describes it as being in decent shape, which is a good starting point for any classic car project. Sure, it's going to need some brake and steering work to get it back on the road, but that's all part of the fun of owning a vintage ride like this. And the seller even says that not much needs to be done to make it an awesome classic. Music to any car enthusiast's ears. Under the hood, you'll find a 289 V8 motor that's ready to roar to life. The seller mentions that the car runs well, which is a huge plus. And while the odometer is broken, that's not uncommon for a car of this age. What matters is that this Mustang has been stored safely for the past 4 to 6 years, just waiting for the right person to come along and give it a new lease on life. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what about the title? Is it clean? Well, I've got good news for you. This Mustang comes with a clean title, which means you won't have to worry about any pesky legal issues or hidden surprises down the road. You can buy with confidence knowing that you're getting a car that's ready to be enjoyed. And let's talk about the transmission for a second. This Mustang comes with an automatic transmission, which is great for cruising around town or hitting the open road. It's the perfect setup for anyone who wants to enjoy the classic Mustang experience without having to worry about shifting gears. So, what do you say, car enthusiasts? Are you ready to make this 1965 Ford Mustang a part of your collection? With its 289 V8 motor, clean title, and tons of potential, this car is a true gem. And at $13,500 cash, It's a deal that's hard to beat. 10. We've got a real treat for you. A 1979 Cadillac Coupe de Ville that's just oozing with style and potential. This classic luxury ride is up for grabs at just $6,500 or best offer. And let me tell you, it's a deal that's hard to pass up. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Caddy. The seller describes it as good, which is pretty impressive for a car that's over 40 years old. The body is straight with no rust, and the original chrome is in great shape. That's the kind of attention to detail that you love to see in a classic car like this. Under the hood, you'll find a massive 7.0L 425 engine that's paired with a smooth shifting TH400 transmission. This combo is known for its reliability and power, so you know that this Caddy has plenty of get up and go. And with rear-wheel drive, you'll get to experience that classic American muscle car feel every time you hit the gas. Now, I know the seller mentions that the odometer is broken, which means the actual mileage is unknown. But based on the overall condition of the car, it seems like it's been well maintained throughout its life. Plus, the seller has made some nice upgrades that make this Caddy even more appealing. For starters, the car has been lowered, giving it a sleek and aggressive stance. The front end has been treated to new rotors, pads, seals, bearings, and brake hoses, so you can feel confident that this Caddy will stop on a dime. And if you're into music, you'll love the fact that the car has been wired for subs and comes with a Bluetooth deck and upgraded speakers inside. But here's where things get really interesting. This Caddy comes with both stock wheels and a set of 17 wire wheels. That means you can switch up the look of the car depending on your mood or the occasion. It's like having two cars in one. Now, the seller does mention that the car needs some TLC, which is to be expected with any classic ride. But the fact that it's a good driver means that you can enjoy it right away while you work on making it even better. 11. We've got an absolute stunner for you. A 1973 Lincoln Continental Mark IV that's the epitome of classic American luxury. This beauty is up for grabs at just $7,300. And let me tell you, it's a deal that's almost too good to be true. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Lincoln. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the details they've provided, I'm inclined to agree. This Mark IV is all original, including the sunroof, which is a rare and desirable feature. The car was bought from the first owner, a lady who clearly took great care of it throughout her ownership. One of the most impressive things about this Lincoln is the mileage. Just 72,702 original miles. That's incredibly low for a car that's nearly 50 years old, and it's a testament to how well maintained this beauty has been over the years. The seller mentions that the car runs great, with no issues with the engine or transmission. And speaking of the engine, it's a massive 460 CI V8 that's equipped with a rebuilt single 4-barrel carburetor. This power plant was factory rated at 215 horsepower and 350 lb-ft of torque, so you know it's got plenty of get up and go. The exterior of this Mark IV is just as impressive as the mechanicals. The car was treated to a new paint job just 6 months ago, and it looks absolutely stunning in silver. The vinyl top is in great shape, adding to the car's classic elegance. And while the seller does mention that the hood needs to be adjusted to close properly, due to some thieves who stole the battery and original hubcaps, that's a relatively minor issue that shouldn't be too difficult to fix. Inside, this Lincoln is loaded with all the power features you'd expect from a top-of-the-line luxury car of the era. And with a straight body and no accidents in its history, you can feel confident that this Mark IV is a solid and well-preserved example of its breed. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about smog? Will I have to jump through hoops to get this car registered? Well, I've got good news for you. The seller specifically mentions that there's no need for a smog test, which means one less thing to worry about when you're making this beauty your own. And let's not forget about the title. It's clean and clear, so you can buy with confidence knowing that there are no hidden surprises lurking in this car's past. 12. We're diving into a classic American muscle car that's up for grabs on Craigslist. Get ready to feast your eyes on this 1978 Ford Mustang, a true gem from the era of big engines and bold styling. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $2,500 for this beauty, which might seem steep at first glance. But hold on, because once you hear about the condition of this Mustang, you might just change your mind. According to the seller, this '78 Mustang is in excellent condition, both inside and out. They claim it's super clean, which is always a good sign when you're shopping for a classic car. The ad also mentions that it's all original, meaning it hasn't been modified or altered from its factory specs. That's a big plus for collectors and purists who appreciate authenticity. Now let's talk about the nitty-gritty details. This Mustang is powered by a beefy 8-cylinder engine, which is exactly what you want in a muscle car. It's a rear-wheel drive, RWD setup, so you know it's built for performance. The transmission is automatic, making it easy to drive and enjoy. One of the most impressive aspects of this Mustang is the low mileage. The odometer reads just 84,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's over 4 decades old. This suggests that it's been well maintained and not driven too hard throughout its life. The seller also mentions that the car has new tires all around and that lots of new parts have been installed. This is reassuring, as it shows that the owner has invested in keeping the car in top shape. Additionally, the Mustang has just passed a smog test and is registered and ready to hit the road. Now, it's important to note that while the seller claims the car is in excellent condition, it's always wise to inspect it thoroughly in person before making a purchase. Check for any signs of rust, damage, or wear and tear that might not be mentioned in the ad. Overall, if this 1978 Ford Mustang is as clean and well-maintained as the seller describes, it could be a fantastic opportunity for any car enthusiast looking to own a piece of American muscle car history. The price might be on the higher side, but for a classic car in excellent condition with low mileage, it could be worth the investment. 13. We've got a real treat for you, a blast from the past that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. Get ready to dive into the world of classic American cars with this 1981 Dodge Diplomat, currently up for grabs on Craigslist. First things first, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $3,800 or best offer for this vintage beauty. While it might not be the cheapest car on the market, wait until you hear about its condition and history. According to the seller, this Dodge Diplomat is in good condition, which is impressive considering it's over 40 years old. The ad mentions that the car has never been in any accidents, and the paint is original, with no rust to be found. That's a big plus for any classic car, as rust can be a real nightmare to deal with. Now, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Diplomat is powered by a 6-cylinder engine, which is paired with an automatic transmission. While it might not be the most powerful setup out there, it's reliable and should be more than enough for cruising around town or hitting the highway. One of the most impressive aspects of this car is the incredibly low mileage. The odometer reads just 43,000 original miles, which is astoundingly low for a car of this age. This suggests that the Diplomat has been well cared for and not driven too hard throughout its life. The seller also mentions that the car runs excellently and has new tires and a new battery. This is great news, as it means you shouldn't have to worry about any immediate maintenance issues if you decide to make this classic your own. Now, here's where things get really interesting. This 1981 Dodge Diplomat is a former police car, which adds a whole new level of cool factor to its already impressive resume. It's not every day you come across a vintage police car in such good condition, and it's sure to be a conversation starter wherever you go. 14. We've got a real treat for you. A classic 1966 Ford Mustang Coupe that's looking for a new home. This iconic American muscle car is currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And boy, does it have a story to tell. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $9,500 for this vintage beauty, which might seem like a hefty sum at first glance. However, once you dive into the details of what's been done to this Mustang, you'll quickly realize that it's a fair price for a car with so much potential. Under the hood, you'll find a 200 cubic inch 6-cylinder engine paired with a 3-speed manual transmission. While it might not be the most powerful setup out there, It's the perfect blank canvas for anyone looking to do a V8 conversion. In fact, the seller mentions that if you have a V8 and transmission ready to go, you could swap them in over a weekend. Now let's talk about the upgrades. The seller has invested a whopping $4,000 into new suspension components, including new steering linkage, disc brakes, springs, shocks, and more. This means that the Mustang should handle like a dream, with a smooth and responsive ride. Other new parts include a fuel tank, pump, carburetor, starter solenoid, voltage regulator, and various dash components. The seller also mentions that all the lights, turn signals, brake lights, and other electrical components are in working order, which is a big plus for a car of this age. The seller does note that while the Mustang runs and drives, it's not quite ready to be a daily driver just yet. It still needs some attention to be fully roadworthy, but the seller has been putting in the work to get it there. As for the body, the Mustang is described as a solid car, not a rust bucket. However, like all old Mustangs, there are certain spots that are prone to rust due to how they were built. The car has an older dark gray repaint, which gives it a sleek and mysterious look. 15. We're taking a closer look at a classic beauty, a 1976 Buick Skylark that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage ride is priced at $4,200, and it seems like a pretty sweet deal, so let's dive into the details. First off, the seller mentions that the car is in good condition, which is always a plus. It's got a clean title, so no worries about any shady history. The odometer reads just 61,650 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's been around for over 4 decades. Under the hood, you'll find a 237 engine with 6 cylinders, powered by gasoline. The transmission is automatic, making it a breeze to drive. And let's not forget about the paint, a classic white that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The seller says the car runs and drives well, which is music to any car enthusiast's ears. It's always a relief to know that you won't have to sink a ton of money into repairs right off the bat. Now, I know what you might be thinking. $4,200 seems a bit steep for an old car. But hear me out. This isn't just any old car. It's a piece of American history, a testament to the craftsmanship and style of a bygone era. And with only 61K on the odometer, it's got plenty of life left in it. Of course, as with any used car, there may be some issues that aren't immediately apparent. The seller doesn't mention anything specific, but it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection before making a purchase. All in all, if you're in the market for a classic car with a ton of character, this 1976 Buick Skylark is definitely worth checking out. It may not be perfect, but it's got a lot of potential, and at $4,200, it's a steal compared to some of the other classic cars out there. So what do you think, car enthusiasts? Is this Skylark worth taking for a spin? 16. We've got a real treat for you. A 1964 Plymouth Valiant that's up for sale on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at $4,500, and let me tell you, it's worth every penny. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller doesn't mention any major issues, which is always a good sign. The title is clean, so you don't have to worry about any sketchy history. And with only 46,246 miles on the odometer, this Valiant has plenty of life left in it. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 3.7/6 engine, which is known for its durability and reliability. The seller mentions that the car runs amazingly well, and you can hop in and drive it all the way to California without any worries. That's a testament to the quality of the engine and the overall condition of the car. One of the coolest features of this Valiant is the relocated floor shifter. It adds a touch of modern convenience to this classic ride, making it easy for anyone to drive. And speaking of driving, the seller notes that this car is really easy to handle, even if you're not used to driving older vehicles. Now let's talk about the appearance of this Valiant. The seller says it's in really good shape for a car that's almost 60 years old, and I have to agree. The photos show a car that's been well maintained and cared for over the years. It's not perfect, but that's part of the charm of owning a classic car. The seller is asking $4,500 for this Valiant, which is a fair price considering the condition and the work that's been put into it. They're also open to trades for a Harley or other items of equal value, but they're firm on the cash price. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic car that's reliable, easy to drive, and has a ton of character, this 1964 Plymouth Valiant is definitely worth checking out. It's a piece of American history that's been lovingly maintained and restored, and it's ready for its next adventure. 17. We're taking a closer look at a classic American utility vehicle, a 1964 Ford Ranchero that's up for sale on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $3,700, and it's got a lot of potential, so let's dive in. First off, the seller mentions that the car is in good condition, which is always a positive sign. The title is clean, so you don't have to worry about any hidden issues or sketchy history. The odometer shows 75,000 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle that's almost 60 years old. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that runs on gasoline. The seller has made some significant improvements to the engine, including a new carburetor, distributor, timing chain set, and water pump box thermostat. These upgrades ensure that the engine runs smoothly and efficiently, which is crucial for a classic car like this. The transmission is automatic, making it easy to drive, and the Ranchero has a rear-wheel drive system that provides excellent traction and handling. The seller also mentions that the car has new brakes, battery, and tires, which are all essential components for a safe and reliable ride. Now, let's talk about the appearance of this Ranchero. The paint color is a classic white, which looks great on a vintage vehicle like this. The photos show a car that's in good shape overall, with some minor imperfections that are to be expected for a car of this age. One of the coolest things about the Ranchero is its versatility. It's a pickup truck and a car all in one, making it perfect for hauling cargo or cruising around town in style. The bed of the truck is spacious and well maintained, so you can use it for all sorts of projects or adventures. The seller is asking $3,700 for this Ranchero, which is a fair price considering the condition and the upgrades that have been made. It's a lot of car for the money, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic American utility vehicle that's reliable, stylish, and versatile, this 1964 Ford Ranchero is definitely worth checking out. It's got a lot of character and potential, and with the recent upgrades, it's ready for its next adventure. 18. We've got a real classic on our hands, a 1965 Ford Mustang that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This iconic pony car is priced at $12,000, and it's got a lot of potential, so let's take a closer look. First things first, the seller mentions that the car is in good condition, which is always a positive sign. The title is clean, so you don't have to worry about any hidden issues or sketchy history. The odometer shows 85,000 miles, but the seller notes that it has rolled over, so the actual mileage is likely higher. However, this is not uncommon for a car of this age. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that runs on gasoline. While it may not have the same power as the V8 option, the 6-cylinder engine is still a reliable and efficient choice for a classic Mustang. The transmission is automatic, making it easy to drive, and the car has a rear-wheel drive system that provides excellent handling and performance. Now, let's talk about the appearance of this Mustang. The paint color is a beautiful blue, which looks great on a classic car like this. The seller mentions that there is no rust, which is a huge plus for a vehicle of this age. Rust can be a major issue for classic cars, so it's great to know that this Mustang is rust-free. The seller also notes that many new parts have been added to the car, which is always a good sign. While they don't specify exactly what has been replaced, it's clear that the owner has put some work into maintaining and improving this Mustang. One of the best things about the Mustang is its iconic design. The long hood, short rear deck, and aggressive stance make it instantly recognizable and always eye-catching. This particular Mustang is a coupe, which means it has a fixed roof and 2 doors, giving it a sleek and sporty look. The seller is asking $12,000 for this Mustang, which is a fair price considering the condition and the work that has been put into it. It's a lot of car for the money, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 19. We've got a real treat for you. a 1978 Chevrolet Corvette that's up for sale on Craigslist. This classic sports car is priced at $12,800, and it's got a lot of great features, so let's dive in. First off, this Corvette is a special one. It's a 25th anniversary edition, which means it's got some unique styling cues and features that set it apart from other Corvettes of the era. The black-on-black color scheme looks absolutely stunning, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that runs on gasoline. The seller doesn't specify the exact specs, but Corvettes of this era were known for their impressive performance and handling. The transmission is a 4-speed manual, which is great news for those who love to drive and want full control over their car. Now, let's talk about the condition of this Corvette. The seller mentions that it's in good condition overall, and they've made a number of upgrades and improvements to the car. The interior has been completely redone, with new seats, seat rails, carpet, door panels, and handles. This means that the inside of the car looks and feels like new, which is a huge plus. The seller has also made some significant upgrades to the brakes, with new rotors, pads, brake lines, and calipers, with upgraded stainless steel pistons and O-ring seals. This ensures that the car stops quickly and safely, which is crucial for a high-performance vehicle like this. Other upgrades include new tires, BFG 255/50/15 front and rear, new front wheel bearings, and new shocks, front and rear. These improvements ensure that the car handles well and provides a smooth and comfortable ride. The seller does mention a couple of minor issues with the car. The front bumper is a little faded, which is not uncommon for a car of this age. Additionally, the air conditioning is not currently working, which may be a concern for some buyers. Overall, this 1978 Chevrolet Corvette is a great example of a classic American sports car. It's got a powerful engine, a manual transmission, and a number of upgrades and improvements that make it a joy to drive. The black-on-black color scheme is stunning, and the 25th anniversary edition adds some unique features and styling cues. 20. We're diving into a real gem from the 70s, a 1975 Plymouth Duster that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $6,950. Now, I gotta tell you, this isn't just any old Duster. It's a spitting image of Al Bundy's beloved ride from Married with Children. How cool is that? This brown beauty is rocking a clean title and has only 59,000 miles on the clock. Under the hood, you'll find a trusty 6-cylinder 255 motor paired with an automatic transmission. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is it all original? You bet your bottom dollar it is. Both the exterior and interior are just as they left the factory back in '75. The seller claims it's in good condition, and while I haven't seen it in person, the description sounds pretty solid. It runs and drives, which is always a good start for a car of this vintage. Plus, being front-wheel drive, it might handle a bit differently than you'd expect from a classic American coupe. Look, I gotta be honest with you. At nearly 50 years old, this Duster might need some TLC. But that's part of the charm, right? It's a piece of automotive history, and with a little love, you could be cruising around town feeling like the king of your own castle, pun intended, Al Bundy fans. So, if you're in the market for a slice of 70s Americana with a side of sitcom nostalgia, this Plymouth Duster might just be your ticket.